Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Tell you a little bit about myself today. My name is Gabe Gambil. I'm the VP of Product and Technical Operations here at Quorum. I've been working in IT for over 20 years. I've done disaster recovery services for many financial institutions across the U.S., managing everything from keyboard to firewall, and then all their audits and risk assessments and everything in between. I've managed engineers, and I've been all over the world doing fund disaster recovery, testing, and product design. What we're going to talk about today is how we can get more out of our BDR systems than what we have. Traditionally, we had backups, and backups were great. They gave you a copy of the data. You were able to get your data off-site. For many of my team, it was in the trunk of the IT guy, which is not the best place for it. So we would find secure sites. And then you get your file level recovery, your ability to recover from tape or disk or cloud. It's pretty straightforward. It's very commonplace nowadays. Even mom and pop shops have basic backups. It's the cheap and cheerful solution. The problems that companies have had with backups is it really is only the data. You're slow to recover. I have the graphic here. It's like trying to suck a watermelon through a straw. When you're trying to pull massive amounts of data back to your network from a cloud solution, it's really difficult, and it really slows everything down. And that coupled with the low success rates of tapes and what everything else that people are encountering, it really becomes a struggle for backups. And the chances that an IT department nowadays really does a full DR test where they restore complete servers is really low. They'll actually do a file test and say, yeah, that tape is good. I could get everything back if I had to. But the pain is so great that they never actually do a full DR test by recovering a server. And so when they face these problems, what we see IT people do is they actually will rebuild the server and then just try to recover the data that they need, because that is the least path of resistance for them. And the time that takes is unbearable for a lot of the business. So we really came up with a paradigm shift, much in the way that you had, as soon as the iPhone came out, the BlackBerry was dead. But BlackBerry was the business tool that executives used. It died within really 2 years of the iPhone release. And BDR is really doing that same thing to backups. That ability to recover an entire server quickly, or to get your local and offsite up and running quickly in the event of a disaster, is the critical path that IT people are facing. And so being able to test all of that is ultimately the most important thing that an IT team can do in the event of DR. And that's what Quorum really has done here, is they put a solution together that makes that realistic. Now, the problems that we're seeing with a BDR solution is it's not as cheap as backup. I mean, let's be honest, there's hardware involved now that has to run all these servers should you have to recover. And that does add, extra cost to the solution. And so the business that considers backup really an insurance policy looks at that and says, we could just do the minimum and just get by. And that just get by attitude is really what's causing a lot of the risk to the businesses today. And so what we're doing today here is we're trying to leverage that and work with our IT folks out in the community to help them create that business case so that they can really show how a true, well-built, well-constructed BDR solution can provide that business case to the customer, to your CFO, to your finance person, that shows how this is going to benefit the company more than just an insurance policy. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how Quorum works and how Quorum can fill that need and build that use case for you. So we'll start with the Quorum core functionality to kind of tell you how the onQ really is designed. So we definitely leverage backups. In the Windows world, we're taking VSS snapshots. We back up as frequent as every 15 minutes. we can deduplicate that data both on the server we're protecting and across the entire appliance, so that we give you 2 levels of deduplication, both local and global. We then can replicate that data offsite, either to a cloud solution to give you disaster recovery, or if you have extra facilities, you can go to a second location to another appliance and to manage DR yourself. Instant recovery. So after we take that backup, we build a recovered server. With each incremental backup, we update that recovered server, what we call a recovery node. And then if you ever should have a server go down, we can instantly boot that server. We provide automated testing, and we're going to talk about that a little more here in a minute. We give an entire sandbox so that you can actually bring up these machines in an isolated environment. We have migration tools. We have a lot of our customers that use our appliances to migrate from one hardware platform to another, or one virtual platform to a hardware platform, or vice versa. Because we're agnostic to the environment that we're in, we can actually design a system that if you wanted to install our system and then take your servers from physical to virtual, or from VMware to Hyper-V or anything like that, our migration tools can help you do all of that. And last but not least, the onQ is designed to hold 30 to 40 days of data, of daily snapshots or hourly snapshots or whatever you're taking. But then we have archive features that can actually hold data for long-term storage. So if you need to hold your monthlies for 10 years or your annuals or whatever, we can do all of that as well right within the box. So instead of having to requery your servers to get those long-term storage needs, those archive needs, we can actually do it right from the onQ for the data we've already backed up and protected. And so what we're going to talk about today are these really 3 things. We're going to talk about the automated DR testing, the sandbox, and the instant recovery. So imagine you have these 10 servers or whatever you have in your environment, and you're backing them up to the onQ. We've created 10 recovery nodes that are ready to run. And because we can bring those up in a sandbox, we can actually test anything we want in that environment. So we could test patches, we could test software, we could do anything we want to do those DR tests. And although we designed it to be a DR testing platform, so you could test without interrupting production, we're finding customers using it for a variety of sources, and we're going to kind of touch base with some of those. So imagine this is your network. You have your 3 servers in this case, and your users are up and running. You have put in a HA appliance, so that's our local appliance that we would do, and that's for high availability. This is the basic interface that we have. So we would protect those servers. If your Exchange server were to go down, you would basically come over, click the button on the onQ, start it back up, and you would be back up and running. So that's exactly the use case that the onQ was designed for. It's very simple, very straightforward. What we're going to talk about today is, because we have all those servers, we can actually bring them all up in the test network, and we can start them up, and then we can connect a console to them. So even though they're on an isolated network separate from your production, we can connect to those and do any testing that we want to do. In this case, what we can also do is, there's multiple network ports on the back of the onQ. You could set this test network up on a separate VLAN or a separate dedicated switch, or however you want, so you could access them directly if you had a use case where you needed multiple people to actually use the applications via their whatever protocol they're using, web or whatever. So there's lots of configuration capabilities that you can use this test platform to test your production workload without being in production. And that's exactly what we're going to drill into. So for the IT folks, the benefits of this test environment are pretty straightforward. You could do patch testing. So Patch Tuesday doesn't need to take down your servers anymore. You could actually install the patches on the test servers and test that the patches are working before you roll them out into production. If you wanted to upgrade software, a use case we see all the time is a customer wants to upgrade Oracle. They'll bring it up in the test network to do their Oracle upgrade before they do it in production. So all the mistakes that they're going to make, they can make on a practice load versus on the production load. And because we're built on the same exact system of install that you have for production, the process that you come up with is the exact process you'll want to use in production. So it really gives you an apples for apples way to compare your upgrade process. And let's imagine you did mess up your recovery node. It's simply a matter of turning it on, throwing it away, and booting up a new recovery node to do it again. And because we use virtualization techniques of creating templates and whatnot, we can boot those recovery nodes and create new ones as often as we want without affecting the backups, without affecting production, without affecting anything else that's going on. So you have a true test environment for those upgrades or for anything else you're doing. I often see customers that'll come to us and go, what if I wanted to do this or that? And they want to change something in their production, whether it be, I don't know, an Active Directory configuration or a security setting. They can actually bring it up in this test environment, test it, throw it away, and know what they're going to do without affecting production. Troubleshooting is one we're seeing more and more. So they have some kind of error on one of their servers, and they're going, well, what did it look like yesterday? I wish I could see what it was before this happened so I could troubleshoot and compare the two. And that's easy to do with this. You bring it up in the test network, you look at them really on the screen side by side, you can go, aha, this is what changed or what failed or what was deleted or whatever. So that troubleshooting capability is really critical and helps our IT folks that we have as customers a lot. Last but not least is compliance. I see our financial institutions or law firms that get audited come to us all the time and say, I need to show the auditors this, that everything was fine without interrupting my users. And being able to bring those servers up and let the auditors have at them without interrupting production is just the least path of resistance. It's so helpful for auditors to go through. And having been through several hundred audits in my past, I'm so glad that when I go through them now, I have this capability. The other environment for these test environments, or the other benefit of these test environments, are if they have internal development teams. So they can actually build pristine, up-to-date production replicas for all of their simulations, all of their software tests, all of their configurations, without having to really rebuild a lab environment and try to replicate production. You actually have the production environment. It saves hardware costs, it saves time, especially doing things like resetting the lab or starting things over. Hey, I made a code change, I want to test it again. All of these things are critical to have for developers, and not being able to do that in a fast, quick-paced environment is hard. And they usually end up, we've seen many environments, hundreds of environments, that'll have internal development teams, and they have a person, an actual person dedicated to just rebuilding labs for the next test. Well, with this, all you got to do is go to the interface, throw the recovery node away, boot it back up, and you're reset. And it's what you have in production. So each backup that you take really updates the lab for you. So you can actually reduce headcount by doing something like this. And then, of course, for QA purposes, testing code before you deploy is just a wonderful feature. So what we're going to do is we're going to hop in, hopefully, and look at an onQ system. So let me go here to my onQ. There we go. So this is the onQ system. I'm going to flip over here to the main screen. So this is what we have going on. If you look at my onQ here, I have three systems. I have a CRM system that's running Microsoft SQL. I have a domain controller, and I have an Exchange server. I've taken the domain controller and the Exchange server, and I put them in a group that I call DC and Mail. Because when I start Exchange, it doesn't make sense to start Exchange in a vacuum. It needs a domain controller. So I've actually set up dependencies so that one can look for the other. And you can see here, I'm actually running that recovery node in the test network right now. So here is my production load, and you can see I have Robbie Lorenzen as an example here. I'm going to edit Robbie's name. We're going to call him Bob instead of Robbie. Let's log back in here. And we're going to show that I've edited production without editing test, and then we're going to show I can edit test without editing production. So we'll go into accounts again. Contacts, sorry. So instead of Robbie, we're going to call him Bob. Okay, so now I've edited my production environment. You can see my users, they're up and running. Now, if I look here on my onQ, I can see my recovery node is running in test. I'm going to come over to the recovery node tab, and this is the console. So I've started the console up here, and we're just going to log into it. Okay, so see, Robbie is still here as Robbie. I haven't changed that. But we can come in here and edit this, and we can call his last name Frank. And you can see how I could use this to do anything I want. So now we have Robbie Frank, and I can change that without changing production. So now I have side-by-side environments where I can do any testing, any changes I want, and I'm not touching the production environment. So this is the critical feature that onQ can provide to BDR solutions to give them a real cost benefit to their IT environment or their production environment without affecting anything else. So if we come here, I have Bob Lawrence in, and if I come here, I have Robbie Frank. Both environments that are there. Now let's say I go, oh, you know what? I didn't want it to be Frank. I can't edit it again. I want it to be Sam. Well, I can come here. I can actually just throw the server away. So I can turn it off. And see, it'll remove the RN. It doesn't remove the template. It doesn't remove my environment. It doesn't delete any backups. It just removes that booted RN instance. I throw it away. I can spin up another one, and I'm right back to working again. So it's really simple to do all the testing and all the resets that I want without affecting production. We have customers that have upwards of 400 machines, and at any given point in time, because they have an internal dev environment, they have 150 machines running to do tests. So in that kind of solution, we really provide an ample way to manage all of your testing environments. And because we build the onQ's to actually be able to run all of your recovery nodes, the horsepower needed to do these tests is also there. So inside each onQ, for example, we have a terabyte-sized NVMe card that provides your 25,000 IOPS or whatever it is, so that you can really get the workloads near or better than your production speed workloads. It's a powerful solution in that way. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to boot it back up here. And again, I can start the snapshot. I can start an earlier snapshot. I can start anything I want. Oh, I want to start the one from the 25th, let's say. I bring it up in the test network, I fire it up. And then it boots up, I connect, and I'm back up to running. Inside, we can also do all of the basic things that you would hope for in a BDR solution. I can come in here and I can do file level recovery. So you can see here, I have my C drive, all my folders underneath, and so forth. I just drill down, pick the files I want, and I recover. I can also do Windows share recovery. So I can activate a share, and then I can literally map a drive, and it will reassemble the file structure on the fly to copy back the Word document or the email that I lost. And then we also have snapshot capabilities. And what snapshot does is when you're doing a full server recovery, so your BMR process, or if you're taking and using it as a migration tool and you're taking someone from physical to virtual, all of those things are really already built into the system. And then the piece that I haven't really talked about, but I want to make sure I do spend a minute on, is self-test. So if you look here for my Exchange server, every day at 2 a.m., I bring that server up. I bring it up in a test network that's a little different than the normal test network because the onQ can actually talk to it in this test network. And what it does is it fires it up, and it does a test to make sure that all the services start, the OS starts, and that I can ping my service on there, so I have peace of mind that everything I need to work on that server is working. It's not just a screenshot of the login screen that could be frozen or could not have network connectivity. It's actually testing that the machine is up and working on the network that it needs to be on. So all that can happen on a daily basis. Of course, our way to set it up is very simple. We can bring up CRM, for example, and I'm just going to click Modify. And this is how the configuration is done. So if you can see down here, I kind of covered it up, but there's a Protect Me button. That would install the agent on your physical machines. We can also do agentless on VMware. And it would install, and it would scan the machine. It would go, okay, this machine has 2 CPUs and 8 gigs of memory, and it has a C drive with 30 gigs disk in it, and all the things that you need. And then all you have to do is really hit save. You can set your schedule, like this schedule here is done every 12 hours, but if you want to change it, you can easily click on schedule, go in and change it. Very straightforward, easy to set up protection. You can also deploy protection for multiple machines at once. So if I click on the little plus here, you can see I can do ESX host for my VMware boxes, but I can also choose domain controller, and I can actually pick an OU in the domain and deploy this out to multiple machines at once. It will use all the defaults, and then I can just go in and edit what I want. So very easy and very straightforward to deploy. If we come back over here to the dashboard, you can see my RN is back up to a running state. I'm going to actually, if I go here, you can see this is all down. It's disconnected. I'm going to close it. I'm going to come back into here, and I'm going to start a console. And it's going to open that console session right back to that new server that's running. So if I come here and log in, I'm right back in the box, and yeah, there we go. And I'm back in and I'm running. I'm doing everything that I need to do to get this box up and going. I'm going to open the browser here, tell it to ask me later, and then don't show me the message again. Put in our IP address. It's going to load the Sugar CRM. I got to just turn off the security options here, or add it to the trusted sites. Oh yes, sorry. There we go. Okay, so I log into my secure system. And because I threw the old one away, if I go back into contacts, you can see I'm right back to Robbie Lorenzo Lorenzen versus any of the names that I changed. So I instantly reset that whole environment for testing. Very easy to do. All right, so let's head back to our presentation here real quick. So in summary, backup, good and cheap. It's real simple, but if you really need a BDR solution, you need to have a way to iterate that to your business units so that they understand the benefits of it. Integrated backup and disaster recovery systems really do provide that business value if you know how to talk about them. All of our advanced testing features that I kind of touched on today can really be done by anybody in any IT team or internal development team. So you can get benefits out of this box far beyond just a BDR system. All right, do we have any questions? So if you have any questions, there's a place in the GoToMeeting or the GoToWebinar session where you can type in your questions, and we can answer any of them that you have.
Great, thanks, Gabe. We do have some questions that came in. So as Gabe said, if you have questions, go ahead and type them into the console, and we'll send them over to Gabe. I do have a few here to get started with. Okay, so Gabe, while using the test network, is this server data still getting backed up?
Oh, good question. Yes, so we don't interrupt any of the backup process. So if you're taking hourly snapshots or whatever it is you're backing up, that happens without fault. The recovery node or the new recovery node that needs to get updated. So if I do have a disaster, I have the latest version, gets updated even if I'm running a recovery node in the test network and doing tests. So none of that workflow that you need for a disaster is interrupted at all.
Okay, all right. Okay, one of the visuals you showed was an automated test. Will I be notified? How will I be notified if an automated test fails? So talk a little bit about what happens when a test fails and how will you know it fails?
So we have a whole alerting system in the box that can generate an alert out to you, let you know if a self-test failure does occur, and it would let you know. And then when it is successful again, it also lets you know. And you can easily log into that test network, bring up a box, and see why it happens, open a ticket, and we solve it really quickly. But we don't have many self-test failures that really impact us.
Okay. Okay. Here's another one. This one's about cloud. So will testing work with the Quorum DRAS cloud service?
That's a great question as well. So absolutely. The simple answer is absolutely. Everything you can do locally, you can do remotely. The only difference is you're a VPN connection away. In fact, what we've done for some cases is we have customers that don't have internal dev teams, but they have external dev teams. So they didn't want to provide them network connection into their production network, but they would give them into the DR network so that they could do testing. And that seems to work out very well for them.
Okay, all right, that's good. This one's related. You may have just answered it, but I'm gonna go ahead and throw it out there anyway. How do you access the test network, and do you need a VPN?
Perfect. Yes, you absolutely need a VPN for the test network in the cloud. However, the local network, as you saw when I did the test here on the screen, all you need is a browser because it's on your network. So all it is a browser to the console session. And then we have the abilities also, you can custom set your VLANs and whatnot for the test network, and you could actually put it onto a special VLAN if you wanted to connect it that way, or put it in a DMZ or anything like that. All of those are capabilities. You know, anything network-wise is capable inside your network.
All right, okay. This one's about load testing. Is there a way to load test an application when it's running in the test network?
Sure, and just like I just said, because it's on your network and you can do anything that you have in production on it, you can run those load tests on it by any means that you would normally test your production loads. So you can do, there's several tools in the marketplace to do load testing, or you can actually fiddle with the recovery node settings and reduce CPU or memory and test the different options to see what's the best for you, even in your production environment.
Okay, great. So far, that's all we have, Gabe. If anyone has any questions, we do still have a couple minutes left, so if you type your questions, we'll address them.
So really kind of to bring us around while we're waiting to see if a question pops in, I just wanted to say that what the BDR system can do for you guys is obviously give you the every feature that you have in your backup software. It can give you instant recovery capabilities, both local and remote. But it also has that whole test network where you can do really anything that you wish you could do in production that you're afraid to do because you'll break something. This is the perfect environment to go play, to go figure things out, to troubleshoot, to take actions that you would never actually take in your production servers because the impact would be so great. I have several customers that before they switched to us they were afraid to do Windows updates in production because if they took their Exchange server down, their world would collapse. And so they were able to actually bring the server up in the test network, run all of their patches and make sure everything worked before they brought it in production. And that gave them great peace of mind.
Excellent. Well, Gabe, there doesn't seem to be any other questions at this time. So if you want to just close out the webcast, I think that's
sure.
where we're at.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. If you do come across any questions in the future, please feel free to reach out to us, www.quorum.com. Thanks again for your time.